Hello, everybody. Well, season 7, episode 20 of Riverdale. Goodbye, Riverdale, the final chapter of the series. Now, Betty is an old lady at the start of the episode, and it's revealed that she's the last one left. She's talking to her granddaughter, and she says that she wants to go back one more time. And the thing was, is we find out Betty had the mumps and wasn't at her last day of school. So she never had her yearbook signed. She never got to spend the last day with all of them. And so finally, Jughead shows up as she's asleep and wakes back up. Jughead's there as like a memory. And he says that she can go. So she has like recovered from the mumps and she sees her mom and Polly and kind of starts crying because, um, she finds out her mom got divorced and made her own way and everything. And Polly had the twins and she hugs them and, is crying. And they're like, come on, Betty, everything's fine. But they don't realize that Betty is like living this day in her young body, but knowing what happens as old Betty. Like I said, she was the last one left. So she goes back to her final day of senior year of high school. And she gets her yearbook signed by some of her classmates. And we find out what happens to various people. We find out that Fangs had a hit, and him and Midge finally get the approval of her parents to be together, but he dies in a car accident. Um, her and her baby are taken care of for life because of the money from the songs that he made. So that was really interesting. Sad though, the Fangs was the first one to go. I liked him, and I think that they finally did his character justice. That he talks to Reggie. That's another character this season. They really made me like him a lot more than the original series because he was kind of slimy. In this new series, or this new season, I should say, they made Reggie really likable and just a down to earth farm boy. And we find out that he did go pro with basketball with the Lakers, and he ends up becoming a coach at Riverdale, and he has two boys and everything. And we find out that Betty, Jughead, Archie, and Veronica end up having a quad as a relationship, which I liked this. You know what? The thing is that people got so obsessed with the relationships, they forget about just the characters being happy and just having an interesting ending. You don't always have to be in a relationship, or you don't have to push the ships in order to be happy. I thought really liked that concept that these people didn't all end up together. Like to me, yeah, it would have been cool, but I'm not mad about it. It's all right. Sometimes you have to subvert expectations, and there are people complaining about Bughead since like seasons ago. So I mean, they've broken up for a long time, so let it go. It's crazy. Anyways, ran over, and like I said, I won't hit everything here. We did find out the Sheriff Keller and Archie's Uncle Frank were murdered by a guy named Chick, which I never did like him, but he's still a killer in this timeline as well, unfortunately. We find out Julian, Cheryl's brother, uh, went to Vietnam and died over there in the war. And he was a character that there were things about him I liked. He was a typical teenager, jock. So, and there were things I disliked, but I really was hoping that he was gonna like find himself and get married and everything. But he died serving our country, so that was okay. So, like I said, I'm not going to say that I agree with everything they do, but most of the stuff I'm not the writer, so cool. Go with what you feel. Um, Thankfully, I was not. I'll be honest. There were a few tears, there was some laughing, but I was not ready to say goodbye to my favorite characters. Cheryl and Jughead are my two favorites, but Tony is also up there. So when they showed basically Betty goes up to Cheryl and is talking to her, and Cheryl thinks she's just going off the rails and going crazy. And it's typical Cheryl, which she's always funny. So I love her character. And then she says Toodles, and she finds out that Tony and Cheryl are going to have a performance at the dark room, and there's going to be an after party at Thornhill. So we go to the performance, and we go to the after party, and Betty doesn't want to be there because she says she knows, her and Jughead both know this is the last time. And they said, no, it's time for you to go. It's you need to go in there and say your goodbyes to everybody and see him again. So she goes to the party, and Cheryl and Tony perform, and it's emotional because Cheryl and Tony, like I said, my favorite couple of the show. They're great. We find out they live to be old. They get to pursue their dreams. They die after having a very sexy life, and they live to be old, which was the proper ending for these two. They really were an incredible piece of the show. I'm very, very happy to say that that Cheryl and Tony get to live to be old ladies. Amazing. We find out Pop Tate died in his sleep. Um, but he's probably in heaven serving food to all those for eternity. So that was great to hear. Um, Kevin and Clay. Clay was a good addition this season. Him and Kevin really were great together. And we find out they get an apartment together, and they also pursue their dreams. They have happy lives together. So that was very good to hear. They didn't meet an untimely death. So I really liked that aspect of it. Archie goes out to California and never looks back. Um, this one I was kind of surprised at a little bit because I always thought, I mean, yeah, he was going to be a writer, but I always thought that he was going to rebuild Riverdale. But now that Riverdale's good, it's actually okay with this timeline that he goes out west. But I was kind of surprised with this one, but not in a bad way. It was just like, okay. Um, we find out Veronica owns a film company. She starts out working there, and then she takes it over. So that was great to hear. Veronica deserved a happy ending there. We find out that Jughead has a magazine company, and he dies in his 80s. And Betty, of course, is the last one left, and she dies in the car when she's with her granddaughter and her granddaughter's boyfriend, husband, whatever he is. Um, in front of Pop's chocolate shop. They look back, and she goes up, "Oh, look, Grandma's sleeping." He's like, "I don't think she's asleep." So proper ending. Like I said, very hard to say goodbye to Tony, Cheryl, the whole cast. So thank you to the cast for making a great show. Thank you to the writers, everyone involved with Riverdale. I've had 7 great seasons with you guys. And anytime that I feel like visiting Riverdale, I will go back and rewatch the show. So there's a great it's great to know that there is a show out there. I'm very excited to see what this cast does after Riverdale. We already know that Lily Reinhart is going to be doing a show with Mark Ruffalo. That'll be interesting. Madeline or Cheryl is going to be doing The Strangers 3, 4, and 5. So I'm looking forward to watching those. We'll see what the rest of the cast does, but I have very high hopes for them. I think they're all great. They deserve the best. And also, one thing I loved about the ending, Jughead at the end says, if you're ever walking down the road at night and you see a sign, come on in. So at the very end of the episode, after Betty passes, everyone's waiting for Pops. So they're all in heaven, we assume, at Pop's chocolate shop. The best ending you could have done. Everybody's back together. They're all at Pop's, having fun, laughing, just enjoying each other. So thank you for the series. I wish all of you well. Like I said, I wasn't as big. I wasn't into the forced ships that a lot of the fandom was. It was more about having a good ending for the characters. Period. Cheryl and Tony got their ending that I always wanted for them. Kevin and Clay got the ending they deserved. Archie did what he loved. He pursued his dreams of becoming a writer. So it was a great ending, guys. I know some of you may disagree, but that's how it ended. And like I said, go rewatch it if you want to spend more time in Riverdale. That's what I plan on doing at some point, is rewatching. It's actually funny. I've been showing my grandma Riverdale, and she likes it a lot. Like we watched, I had surgery when I was recovering. We watched the entire first season in like 2 days. It's very addicting, and I can't wait to give it a rewatch. Toodles.